Hello, I'm Mayor Watt. That's my site, ohmTown.com. Am I starting off with some dead air already? Yeah, maybe I'll cut it out. I don't know. Anyway, ohmTown is a news aggregation site that I use every day, all throughout the day. And then I come here at 6 o'clock and I talk about what I have found over the last 24 hours. Been doing this since January 1st. And all of the episodes are over on YouTube. They are slowly migrating over to podcasts wherever you consume. So if you are on Spotify, you can get it there. Google Play, you can get it there. Apple, you can get it there. And you can always go to ohmTown.com and read the news and make comments, become a citizen, sign up. That would be great. But more importantly, come and chat with me over at Twitch, which is twitch.tv/ohmTown, 6 p.m. Eastern, every single day, talking about the news. And it's the show, ohmTown Daily News Show, or ODNS. Anyway, bunch of articles all get funneled into 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. And then from there, there's 50 channels within it. I want to bring all of those to Twitch. So I haven't asked for a little while. If you're interested in being a host or a co-host, get in touch with me. Doesn't matter how you get in touch with me. Get in touch with me. Bunch of different ways. You can always send me a message. There's a Discord as well. I don't really hype that at all. There's nobody over there. I don't know. It's one of those catch-22s where you have to have people for people to want to go over there, and I'm not in it all the time. So it's really, kind of crickets. But each channel will have its own channel on Discord as well. At any rate, let's get into the news. There's quite a few things going on. A couple of things are going to probably infuriate some, I'm sure. But I present news in a rather holistic, expansive way in terms of topics, not really deep in terms of discussion. The discussion really needs to be longer form in the ability to have a discussion. And while I am right now focusing on talking about 20 articles, it lends very little time for long form discussion. But some of these things really do need greater context. So I continue to debate with myself about the idea of lowering the number of news articles and then talking at greater length about them. I'm not sure if anybody's interested in that. And nobody has been making any comments anywhere, either in the podcasts or in the comment section of YouTube or here in Twitch. So I'm kind of flying without any map, no radar. I don't know that the horizon is always out there. So I am just going with the flow and doing really, what I'm interested in doing. But I would really like conversation. People talking about the news is important to me. And the 3 main things that I focus on is business, technology, and society. I was asked why I break out business from society, and it's really because there's a lot that can be done with a business sense, but it has a profit motive, whereas society doesn't have that profit motive, not in and of itself. Society is a different aspect. Business relies on society. Society relies on business. Unless you're doing everything by yourself out in the woods, the business processes from bartering to paying cash for a service. Something is exchanged. Value for value kind of thing. So that's why I break it out separately. And then technology is pervasive across both of those areas. So that's my focus. And in that context, that's the news that I talk about. So let's get into the news. Today's first article is over in the Stock Marketeers channel. This here is titled How to Retire Well Even If You're Not Rich. So it says how to make every dollar and decision count. Let's click the link and it'll take us over to Market Watch. It was originally published on March 30th, and they've made some manipulations of the text. So an edit has taken place somewhere between then and now, to the point where it says how to retire well even if you're not rich. So maybe there's not that much that changed, but there's no edit history as far as I know to see what changed. So it says, in order to retire with savings that may be adequate, though not necessarily ample, you've got to make every dollar count. You also have to make every decision count. And this involves some delicate balancing acts in how you invest your money, how you withdraw that money, and the lifestyle you adopt. So you really need to prepare for the future. And if you start early, I can't pretend to know the full demographics of the people that are on Twitch, mainly because I am not, a spring chicken. Some of the streamers that I watch are also not spring chickens, but then there are some that are, 18 years old. I don't know if there are younger ones that are streaming on the regular, but you can't have an account, supposedly. You can't have an account unless you're 13. So it runs the gamut. So there's a broad swath of people. So if you start early, particularly if you're a streamer and you're full-time streaming, you need to sock away money because you just never know. You just never know. And the whole, for us here in the States, pretty much every state is at will. So if you're employed, you never know when your job's going to disappear. There's an insecurity there, and there's an insecurity when you hang your own shingle and you're your own boss. So socking away some money and then not touching it will benefit you later in life. Basically, make it go away. Just ignore it. Invest it and ignore it. And you can have extra money where you can dabble with trading through Robinhood or something like that, but you need to sock away a retirement portfolio. And this article will walk you through some of the things to look at. And I'm not sure how deep it will be. I don't see the material of it, because it talks about starting in 1970, and most of the people that I think are using Twitch are probably not circa 1970. I'm not even circa 1970, so I'm sure there's a cohort, but I'm not sure how far back we all go. So at any rate, this would probably be a great article for you if you are not investing in anything yet, particularly your retirement. You should go and take a look. And remember, the money that you make is taxable. If you're a streamer or if you are a solo practitioner of anything, if you are your own boss, your income is taxable. So don't think that just because you're making money, you aren't required to pay taxes on it. So get to know it. And all of those decisions will matter in the long run. So let's continue on. I don't want to get too lost in this. Happy to answer questions if you have them. So feel free to ask here in chat. The next article is a New York Post article. It was aggregated into Stock Marketeers as well. And it says Goldman Sachs $50 million bonus to CEO and COO, and with Chief Executive Officer and Chief Operations Officer. Was let's see, $30 million one-time bonus to the Chief Executive and $20 million bonus to the Chief Operating Officer. It says that let's see here. Proxy advisor Glass Lewis argued Friday that it was excessive. Well, I've been saying this kind of stuff for a long time, and it gets rebuffed by people who say, well, who are you to say how much somebody should get paid? Yeah, arguably. Let me back up. This article about how to retire well over at MarketWatch, that was written by Paul A. Merriman. Now, the other one that is about the $50 million bonuses, or I should say $50 million bonus that's split across two people, one for 30 million and one for 20 million. That one's actually written by Lydia Moynihan. It's interesting to talk to people about this kind of wealth, because the people who don't have it and will never have it and realize that they'll never have it tend to be kind of like I am, in that it doesn't make sense that people have that much wealth. I'm not talking, when somebody's looking at this article, they may say, oh, well, they got a $30 million bonus. That's not their salary. That's a bonus. And that's 1 year. Who knows how much is sitting there? And we'll get to some other concerns, something that I mentioned yesterday. But this is a sociological force that is rather invisible to people, that you either don't care or don't know, or a combination of both, where knowledge and willful ignorance play a part. Or I've had discussions with people who think that they will get to this point, not realizing that the steps to get to this point aren't the same for everybody. And it's very, very rare that somebody gets to that point. When you've got hundreds of millions of people in the United States alone, and there is no limit to dragging somebody from some other country into the United States so that they can be chief executive officer of a company, the chances of you becoming a chief executive at, some company like Goldman Sachs, there's a level of awareness that just isn't out there. So really, what is the benefit of somebody getting a $30 million bonus? We'll get to that. It might pop up again, this discussion point. But I don't want to spend too much time on a soapbox. I encourage you listening or watching to ask questions. I would love to hear your opinion on this. It says the shareholder advisory firm told Goldman shareholders they should vote against the executive pay package that contains the one-time gift bonuses. Now, the argument has always been within companies that you have to pay them well to keep good quality leadership. And I find it hard to believe that there are so few leadership capable people that $30 million is the going rate. Now, I'm sure that will inflame somebody in Goldman Sachs who thinks that they are the next CEO and thus won't want to rock the boat. But I would argue that most people aren't this person's neighbor. Nowhere near the same zip code. Nowhere near the same socioeconomic strata. Even though here in America we try to resist the idea that there is strata, but That's not how it looks. That's not how it is. Depending on which location in the country, you have poorer schools and lower wages and less taxable income, thus lower level education in the public schools and fewer of them. So you have fewer teachers that are bombarded by 60 students in a classroom. It is different when wealth is involved. So you can read this, but obviously there are some people that are looking at this and saying, well, this just doesn't make much sense. So it says here, Solomon's compensation is in line with his competitors. James Gorman, CEO at Morgan Stanley, also raked in the same amount, $35 million for 2021. So if you get what I've been repeating in the last couple of episodes, we are in a pandemic, yet record profits, and at the same time, increasing costs, increasing inflation. Wages are stagnating across the board, with the exception of a few high-profile additions, like the legal sector. Some law firms are blowing the salary cap out of the water. First years that are making 6 digits plus. Again, those are the ones you hear about, but the vast majority of employees are not getting even cost of living increases. And people are fighting to get $15 an hour. Meanwhile, there's enough wealth being generated off of nothing more than the interest rate of invested money that a $15 salary or $15 an hour minimum wage would be meaningless if the margins weren't so high for everybody. You can't have 30% margin on products. You can't have 12% return on your investment in a bunch of stock or investments, loans, etc., and still not expect some repercussions, either in the short term or the long term. You just can't expect that much back without additional value being created. But it isn't being created. It's taking away from everybody else to feed that interest rate. Again, we can talk about it more. But go read that article and see if it makes sense to you. And then come and talk to me. Why do you think somebody deserves $30 million as a bonus, which is more money than you or your kids, your entire family won't make $30 million in their lifetime. And this guy's making it in 1 year. But who am I to say otherwise? The next article is over in Smack Talk. It's basically a channel that talks about Apple and its products. This is Lulu Look iPad Mini 6 magnetic stand review. They say it's a must-have iPad Mini accessory. I want the new iPad Mini when it has the M1. I don't think the Mini has the M1 just yet. Let me see for sure. Maybe it does now. So let's see. Yeah, it still has the A15, the Bionic. Anyway, Lulu Look has produced a few iPad stands that take advantage of many magnets in the rear iPad casing, but the iPad Mini 6 magnetic stand is the best iteration yet. Let's click this link and just take us over to Apple Insider. It's an article written by Wesley Hilliard. Let me back something up here. Sorry if you're watching, just going to scroll up real quick. Yeah, okay. So I think, well, I originally got the iPad mini. I love its form factor. I love its capabilities. I want it with an M1. But I moved over to the iPad Pro. So the larger footprint, it's more, it's closer to an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And so nothing has to scale. You don't have to zoom. It is just more natural for writing as a tablet than the mini. But I love the mini because I want that small form factor. I want all of the capabilities and power of the Pro, but on the mini. And then that would be my wonder device. I would always have it with me, even more so, even though I pretty much just walk around with my iPad Pro. Anyway, let's take a look at the stand. It looks it looks just like a regular Apple monitor stand. Let me scroll down here, except that it looks like it has a hinge. But it's just a chunk of aluminum with a bunch of magnets and a rubber foot. It looks like you can pivot it too, which is great. And yeah, it looks like the studio display mount. It's pretty neat, pretty simple. I can't wait for more Apple devices to be wireless charging. Eventually we will get there. But that's what it looks like. So if you want it, let's see how much it is. It's about $60. It looks like it's $60. So with that in mind, if you want to learn more about this, it has the neat texture on it, like the rest of the aluminum mounts that I have seen. But go over to appleinsider.com and take a look. They give it a 4.5. Is that the article rating? The product rating. Yeah. Let's continue on. The next article, Scottish farmers warn of rising costs and food shortages. So this is kind of the eclectic mishmash of news, and I don't put it in any particular order. This is all pulled throughout the day as I go through the news. And so obviously some people get caught off guard when we bounce from something as innocuous as a iPad mini mount to Scottish farmers warning of rising costs and food shortages, but it is what we deal with throughout the day. In this particular instance, the Scottish government calls for a summit of UK ministers to discuss the problems facing food producers. So let's click this link and take a look at this. So the National Farmers Union Scotland said rising fuel costs and grain shortages could mean prices going up and food and goods becoming scarce. So this again drives home this issue that I have been having, where I've been looking back at layers, the strata of supplier from the retail chain all the way back to the producer. So the raw material producer. We have been in a pandemic for over 2 years, and we have been dealing with the ramifications of this massive switch 2 years ago. Mostly online, everything shutting down. People aren't able to get out and sell and buy and whatnot, except that we were. A lot of people got sick. Emergency services were kicking off pretty much all the time to deal with the massive influx of sick people. But we didn't have food shortages. For the most part, it wasn't public discourse. It might have been localized somewhere, but there weren't food shortages. There weren't fuel shortages. There was no increase in fuel costs. Why? Because everybody was staying their butt home. But now, what has changed? It is literally going back to the old normal. So why is fuel costing more? Is it because of what's going on between Russia and Ukraine? Well, the EU, United States, NATO, and other countries have a possible solution, which is in a unified voice, stopping Russia from invading Ukraine. You got to shut this down. I know it's political and you have to weigh this and that, but more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. I mean, that doesn't make any sense that this invasion even ever took place. That said, you just can't account for several things. We're not, at least I'm not, even close to being in the know as to, is this really justified in any way, shape, or form? No, it's not. Me looking from the outside in, I don't think it can ever be justified. And you can't call me anything when it comes to war, because it's the 21st century. There's no reason for conflict. We have technology. We have so many solutions at our disposal where it only takes money and time and dedication. Yet, instead of solving these problems, we've got a few billionaires doing their projects. Some of them are using taxpayer dollars to offset their personal expenses, whereas I would have to spend all of my personal money to run a business. And then there are leaders and despots and autocrats and countless other names for these people who are running their country into the ground instead of helping the people and focusing on the growth of the country instead of their personal wealth. I'm sure I'm not making fans by talking about this, but that's not the point of this. The point of this is to raise awareness about issues that we could be resolving using technology, using a unified voice in making effective change and changing the way that society thinks about each other, instead of saying, well, you know, you're black or you don't have the finances that I do, and marginalizing and siloing and slapping labels on people and finding one thing after another as a means to isolate people so that they can feel superior. We could resolve all of this. But again, I get called naive. I'll say this again and again, I'm sure, in my episodes. But why did fuel start going up? Why is there a grain shortage that should never have existed over the last 2.5 years? You know, farming shouldn't have stopped. People were still buying stuff. The supply chain may have been hit, but this speaks to the ability of the smaller locations being spun up to provide the resources to a given geographic location. I'm a proponent of a different type of farming where there's more of them distributed within communities that provide the means for the community. You can't tell me that it's going to be less cost effective. No, you're going to have more stakeholders providing the services for their community. But that's not what's happened. Everywhere it gets consolidated. Corporations own the land. They own the supply chain all the way until it hits your table. The moment you stick your fork in it, then it's suddenly yours. But my point is, we have made this happen. We have allowed, through either the desire to let it be somebody else's problem or the economics that as it's perceived, we've let somebody else take control, and thus fuel costs are increased. There's limited competition. grain shortages exist because there's only a few people that are supplying it, and thus when something falls apart, so does the supply. Well, we have to learn our lessons, and the last 2.5 years have shown us that we're still inadequate in solving these problems. So I'm going to continue on to the next article. You can definitely go over to the BBC website and check it out. But this segment here, it says Scotland's farmers are warning they are facing a quote unquote perfect storm made worse by the war in Ukraine. So, made worse by the war in Ukraine. How did this happen? It's profiteering. So let's continue on. The next article is why teenagers reject parents' solutions to their problems. This is an article that's over in Mobile. It's usually because we're not giving them what they're really looking for. That's what the little snippet from my aggregator says. And this article is written by Lisa D'Amour. And the biggest headline in here, it says, they need a sounding board. Adolescents, just like adults, may find the best relief from simply articulating their worries and concerns. Indeed, as an aphorism among psychologists, that most problems feel better when they're on the outside rather than on the inside, and this holds true whether the difficulties are big or small. And gone are the days of my parents where they basically said, like, let it go, or just get back to work, or whatever. We have realized that to be an empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate, holistic human being that is not a sociopath, you have to be able to talk about the issues, your issues, not just the fact that you've got a flat tire and you're angry about it, but if what else is going on in your head, you need to be able to talk to somebody about it. Well, until my generation came along, it was basically smash it down and don't say anything. Even hugs were verboten from the generation that I grew up from. My parents weren't a person where I could sit there and have conversations. They may ask, but when I was a teenager, it wasn't a matter of let's sit down and have a heart to heart. But now we understand this. We are social beings, so you can't be antisocial. So listen to your kids, let them vent, and don't try to necessarily fix it immediately. Offer up advice. It says, I'll talk to my parents as a sounding board, says 18-year-old Kathleen. So this person's 18, though. When you're 18, you're pretty much capable of having rational thought. When we're younger, we think it's the end of the world when we break up with somebody. It's not like that, but we feel like it is. And she continues, especially if it's not enough of an issue for me to want to do something about it. I just want to get it off my chest. Yeah. I've had conversations about this kind of thing in the past, and I've had somebody say, well, that's just like a child or a girl, or it's not a dude's problem. No, we all suffer these things. Sometimes people don't realize that they are suffering these things, and that's because they don't have that mechanism that makes them feel what's going on inside. They don't even pay attention to that internal dialogue, that internal voice, the thing that triggers feelings, the thing that says, hey, you're not feeling well. or you're upset about something. Some people don't even pay attention to that. And then so again, let me just reiterate, I don't read these articles until I'm on the air here streaming. So right here it says they're seeking empathy. I wonder what the next one thing is. They could use a vote of confidence, which is nothing more than listening to them and being supportive. You know, if you have a kid that comes out of the closet, right, and says that they are gay, why blast them, right? Even if you think that they are confused or whatever it is, the machination in your head, there's no reason for you to throw your baggage on your kid if they feel that they've actually gotten in touch with their identity enough to make that statement. You can pretty much bet your butt that they understand the implications of what they are saying to you. So why be negative about it? Have a rational conversation. If you get upset about them saying this, it says more about you, that your kid is stronger than you are. So have the conversation. Be supportive. If you need to talk to somebody because you're having a hard time coping with it, then find somebody that you can have a conversation with without damaging your kid because you feel a negative response. Because they've got a lot more to cope with, particularly in this era. So just be supportive. They want ideas, not instructions. Again, yeah, I'm a person who really likes solving problems. Oh, sorry, article jumped. But they don't want you to just hand them a solution. It may be that easy, but you can preface it with, hey, I've been through something similar and I did this. Not, you can only do A, B, C. Say, I was your age and I actually had something that came along that was really close to this. And so I did this or that. Maybe you should give it a try. Maybe they'll manipulate your advice into something that they can follow. So there you go. Why teenagers reject parents' solutions to their problems? It's because there's no manual and nothing is identical. Pretty close, but everybody's context is a little different. Let's continue on to the next article. I don't want to fall too far behind. We're going to get this into an hour. The next article is about a dual USB-C power adapter. Apple's leaked dual port USB-C wall charger may see release in the near future, according to an analyst. Let's click the link. It's actually a picture of two. It's funny. Looks like it's two. I don't know if it's going to have a dongle. Anyway, this is an AppleInsider.com article written by Malcolm Owen. Let's see here. Oh, let me pause this. Pause this video. What the heck? That's a first. Okay, so on Friday, a support document briefly posted, then removed from Apple's website, described the unreleased Apple 35-watt dual USB-C power adapter. While the leak didn't indicate when it will launch, it seems that it could be a matter of a few months before it sees the light of day. Well, I mean, if it's a support thing, then it's going to be out. So I can't wait for it. Apple has been thought to be working on chargers for a while, with a release sometime in 2022 speculated. Well, they're always working on something, particularly chargers. I still want wireless, higher speed wireless charging, but that goes into the physics of the batteries. So let's continue on. There will be more chargers released by Apple in 2022, apparently. So the next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. That's where a channel where I'll be talking about business transformation in general, but strategic management, intellectual property, things like that, product development. The title of the article is Millions of homebuyers in America have been priced out since the start of the year. Economists say it's likely to get worse. I agree. I say the same thing based on the research that I have done. It looks like we're trending in a certain way that is historically leading to something bad for consumers. People with money won't feel it as much, particularly if they're savvy. But let's open up this link. It'll take us over to Business Insider, an article written by Ryan Hogg. And it says here, there's a little caption. There's two young people that are on the screen, and it says Rachel Linehan and her partner Dan have seen their budget drop nearly $100,000 since January. And they look like they're out on their yacht. Rising U.S. interest rates designed to slow inflation have priced more than 9 million homebuyers in America out of the housing market since the start of the year, according to a leading property economist. So the thing about that, though, is that people have to live somewhere. And the people that have the means to keep something low are not advising themselves or the industry to keep prices low. They see an opportunity to exploit interest rates and inflation as a rationale for why their rates are high. So it's circular logic. It's self-fulfilling destiny. It's the very people that have the ability to keep it low are making it increase. Because as I've said in other episodes, you can't demand 30% margins while interest rates are increasing, while fuel costs are increasing, while everything is increasing, because it's the margins that are making things more expensive. You can't have growth after growth after growth in percentages, always demanding more when there is trouble, when there is strife. But it's literally being used as the rationale for why prices are increasing. Fuel prices are increasing because costs are increasing. How does that make any sense when the companies that are raising their prices have record profits each of the 2 previous years during the pandemic? Yet here we are talking about interest rates increasing because somewhere somebody raised a ticker up a fraction of a percent. Doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm a human talking about human things, whereas what everybody likes to talk about in these things is the money, this disembodied thing. And because it's not attached to humanity, I want more. I don't care about the impact on the rest of society. Anybody saying that we always have to keep on increasing whatever it might be, profits, always profits, doesn't seem to understand that the very increases that are being demanded are causing the issue. So now interest rates are looking at almost 5%. So it's gone up quite a bit, and it'll continue. So you can go over to Business Insider and read the rest of this article. But if you did not refi prior to 2022, you're done. You are done for the next, I'd say, 12 years. I don't think that it's going to reduce again. It's going to keep on going up. You won't see these low interest rates on a mortgage for a long time. Fuel costs are going to continue to go up a little bit. Maybe there will be some loud social backlash for the pricing, but we'll see. We'll see. The next article is over at Hatch Ideas. Japanese company behind a $777,000 flying motorbike is planning to go public, according to some reports. Let's see what this is all about. Ali Technologies, the maker of the X-Turismo, is mulling a stock market listing per Bloomberg. The company began accepting pre-orders for its X-Turismo. I'm just going to call it X-Turismo. I'm not sure if there's some other pronunciation of this, but it sounds like it's spelled X-Turismo in October. The bike, which reaches a height of 2 meters, is ideal for the Middle East desert terrain. The Japanese startup behind I'll just round up, $800,000 flying motorbike is planning to float the stock exchange, float on the stock exchange through an IPO to raise further funds, according to Bloomberg. The amount of risk on this is incredible. And you have to have an enterprise that is worthy of an IPO. And there's no history here, so at least not on flying motorbikes. Let's click the link. I'm curious. So this is what I had seen in history. I've seen other versions of this, if not this. This is an article over at businessinsider.com written by Ryan Hogg. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and see if there's anything else in here. It says, Katano also said the company is in negotiations to float on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, but declined to provide a time frame or potential target valuation for an IPO. Well, if they're asking for almost $800,000 for this, says the 300 kilogram X-Turismo bike, which according to the company's website has a top speed of 80 kilometers per hour with a travel range of up to 40 minutes, launched for pre-orders in October last year. It can reach a height of 2 meters. Wait. Okay, wait. Let me... So most of the time when you hear about how fast something can take place, you're talking about 0 to 60 in 2 seconds in certain electric vehicles. This here is touting that it can go to 6.6 feet in 3 seconds. So, unlike my vertical leap of 0 inches, this can go up 6.6 feet in 3 seconds. That's the claim to fame in this article. Okay, that's interesting. I never thought I'd ever see that. I can jump 6.6 feet in 3 seconds. Interesting. So it says the X-Turismo is the latest in a line of startups racing to develop flying automobiles. The tech platform Traxon estimates there are 37 flying car companies based in the U.S. That's a lot of money floating around. It says that the projects projects that the flying car market will grow from 225 million to 1.5 trillion in 18 years. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening by a long shot. So at least now it's recorded that I'm making that kind of a claim. We'll go back next year as I go through. Each season is a year, right? So I'm just shy of 100 episodes. We will see as the year progresses, and we'll revisit my claims as we go into 2023 and see if I'm ever on target. I don't know. I could be exactly like every other political and financial talking head and miss my target more often than I hit it. We'll see. This is an article over in Mobble.com, Sorry, it's the Mobble channel. I actually own Mobble.com. And if you go over to it, it actually is where I spun up a Mastodon server, which is a federated Twitter. I wanted to noodle around with it, so I knew what I was talking about. There's not much to talk about because it's pretty it's pretty done, pretty robust. It's an interesting concept, but I still have time to noodle around with it. I don't know if that will actually stay operational. It was just an interesting, easily spun up solution to answer my curiosity about Mastodon. At any rate, this is an article that was aggregated into Mobile, and the title is, "As Gas Prices Went Up, So Did the Hunt for Electric Vehicles." Yep, I agree. I decided that I was going to reinvestigate electric vehicles. And it says here, prices at the pump have apparently given some Americans second thoughts, but two practical problems remain: not enough cars and relatively few charging stations. And that is what I have been saying as well. Not to mention the speed at which things charge. We need better technology, better solution. We need to be able to pull the battery off of the sled and put a new one in. Unfortunately, society can't be trusted. As the criminal enterprise will see the value in the $10,000, $20,000 battery pack being easily assailable. I'll give you an example. Somebody stole the tires from a rental while sleeping in a motel. It wasn't, a really high-end place, but yeah, overnight, somebody came along, jacked the car up, put it on blocks after taking the tires. Yeah. Imagine somebody doing that to your Tesla when the sled has removable battery packs. Yeah. $25,000 battery pack. Google searches related to electric cars have skyrocketed, reaching a record number last month. On the automotive classifieds website cars.com, searches for electric vehicles increased 43%. Well, people are tired of it. Gas prices going through the roof and then dropping back down to reasonable prices. Couple it with being socially conscious, ecologically conscious, globally aware. We know that oil is being purchased in our name from countries that are hostile to each other or to other countries nearby them. And some people just don't want to have to deal with that in their psyche. They don't want to have to be complicit to this. Others just don't want to have to pay that bill again and again and again and again. It's kind of like renting. People should be able to buy a house at a reasonable price. But interest rates now, inflation now, you can't put a down payment because you have to have, $250,000. I'm just throwing a number out there, but I'm just saying that you have to have an extraordinary amount of wealth saved up to get a house nowadays. And you're going to be paying a back-breaking interest rate. So you rent, but you're paying somebody else's mortgage. And it's that person that could weather an economic change. While somebody might be a landlord and saying to themselves, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. No, don't hear me wrong. Not everybody. It's all about context. I'm not generalizing. I'm saying, for the most part, people who are wealthy enough to have multiple real estate investments, landlords, renting entire buildings to people, have the ability to weather an economic storm to a greater degree than the person who you're renting to, who one hospital stay because they slipped somewhere can land them in debt interminably, like never being able to get out from under it, kind of debt. Context matters, folks. Anyway, so electric cars are high on people's radar. And I went looking again to see maybe now is the time. But I still don't want to spend 2 hours waiting for my car to charge. So I'm still waiting. Let's continue on. The next article is about Meta and the metaverse in particular, not Meta. Anyway, it's in the Hatch Ideas channel. See inside virtual worlds created by Wendy's, Chipotle, and McDonald's. I don't know if the Chipotle one will still not tell you where the food poisoning came from, but that's long history forgotten, apparently. So you can actually check it out. If you follow the link, it'll take you over to Business Insider, and Mary Meisenzahl, wrote the article. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it says in 2021, Facebook rebranded itself as Meta and started discussing its focus on building out the metaverse, which is basically a virtualized environment that might be able to translate into augmented reality as well as virtual reality. They glommed on to metaverse, which to me is just atrocious. I like the idea of metaverse being a generic term, but now you can't say metaverse without it being tied to Facebook, which is rebranded as Meta, while Facebook is a product of Meta. Anyway, you can go and check out all of this stuff. I mean, it's the standard low poly virtual environment that you can do VR chat in now, except that it's commercialized to a greater degree. You can walk into a branded Wendy's Meta. They're calling it the Wendyverse, to debut in April, right? Is that what it said? Yeah. So now, apparently, sometime. So this article has a picture and a little bit of text, copious amounts of pictures, and kind of bold black text across the article. So if you want to read more about it, you can follow the link that's in chat or in the show notes. The next article is accused shooter in Lady Gaga's dog theft has been mistakenly freed. I thought this was an interesting societal article. A gunman accused of shooting and seriously wounding Lady Gaga's dog walker and stealing her 2 French bulldogs was mistakenly released from jail and is being sought. So if you are out there and you know what this person looks like, and or they have returned to go and pick up these 2 French bulldogs again, be sure to notify the authorities. A gunman accused of shooting and seriously... this article is by the Associated Press, and it's on ABC News. As usual, I don't read the entire article here on the stream. Maybe a little highlight, but it says James Howard Jackson, 19, was facing an attempted murder charge when he was released from Los Angeles County Jail on Wednesday, quote, due to a clerical error, end quote, the county sheriff's department said in a statement. Yeah, the camera recorded the dog walker screaming, "Oh my God, I've been shot." And this guy got out because of a clerical error. I'm just going to leave that alone. Let's continue on. The next article is in the Daily News Show, which is this show. It has its own channel over on ohmTown. Pardon me while I scratch my eye. Sanders' hearing on corporate greed goes unnoticed by corporate media, of course. Massive coverage of the war in Ukraine does not offend advertisers, while the corporate war on consumers directly involves corporate advertisers. So let's click this link. This is a commondreams.org article. I tend to always make a caveat when it comes to Common Dreams, because their articles, to me, seem, again, to me, to I'm lacking the term for it, but they tend to be provocative, at least in my perception. The writing of it, the tone of it, and now it's just me and it's my perception of it, and that's why I say I want you to go and read these articles, and while it might challenge your preconceived notions, it is a voice. And in this context, it's okay to hear a counter voice. There isn't a lie in there. There isn't a there is verifiable information. You can go and verify it and do the due diligence necessary to add or subtract value from this article. But it is not an outright fabrication. So when it's an outright fabrication, it will not be in this stream. But this is rather opinionated, right? So it says, it is exceedingly rare for our major congressional committee to hold hearings on corporate greed, leading to corporate profiteering and surging prices on consumer goods. On April 5th, 2022, Senate Budget Chairman Senator Bernie Sanders chartered uncensored territory on corporate avarice with a lead witness, former Secretary of Labor Robert Reich, now a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. Although the hearing covered bread and butter issues, the mainstream corporate media ignored it. Massive coverage of the war in Ukraine does not offend advertisers, while the corporate war on consumers directly involves corporate advertisers. And it's going to go into greater detail here. It says, however, at the Senate hearing, Sanders chose to focus on the economic exploitation of consumers. And here is his introductory remark. And I'm going to read this straight through. This is his quote. Across every major industry, prices continue to rise. This includes a 38% increase in the price of gasoline, a 44% increase in the price of heating oil, a 41% increase in the price of a used car, a 24% in the price of rental cars, a 17% increase in the price of furniture. Further, Tyson Foods recently increased beef prices by 32%, the price of chicken by 20%, and the price of pork by 13%. As prices increase, corporate profits hit record high of nearly $3 trillion in 2021, up 25% in a single year. Now tell me, you're listening to this. You may be watching this. You may be in my chat. You may be in another country or here in the United States, but it's happening in every country. It can be worse in other countries, like dramatically worse in other countries. It depends on the economic situation of the country that you are in. But in the United States, that level of increase is only seen as predatory when you are looking at economic collapse. Everything is increasing except for wages and the capability of coping with a 25% increase in costs across the board. Right? If you add all of that up, you're around 25% if you were to average it all out. But food, a year ago, we were warned by a CEO that the days of cheap food are over in the United States. That is a parting shot across everybody's bow around the world, because there aren't a massive number of suppliers of food. It's more and more concentrated depending on, again, the economics of your country. Farmers basically get priced out until they can no longer afford. And so somebody else comes along and says, I'll buy your land, I'll buy your farm. Here's a bunch of money. And now it's basically mergers and acquisitions, moving the family farm out of existence. And so when there is no competition, you can do crap like this. And this is in the face of a pandemic. So why are prices increasing during a pandemic? This is on the recovery side of a pandemic. It wasn't because there was a lot of demand and now everything is constrained. All of the functionality, all of the capability has always been there. People were getting sick, but that's because companies decided that they weren't going to implement policy and procedure to limit the spread of a virus that was very well known by that time. Not to mention other administrative, nasal gazing instead of actually doing something about it. So now this is profiteering. This is trying to recoup the profit margins that might have been lost in the past when it should have been storing money for days like this and not giving bonuses to CEOs, $30 million bonuses, while firing hundreds of people or even thousands of people, depending on if they riff it or not. There's a lot more here. There's a lot more to this. Not this article, but to the machinations that are leading up to how we are in inflationary times. So what do you think about that? Let's continue on to the next article. This too is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Travelers are shelling out $136,000 for a luxury 3-week global trip on a private Boeing 757. And here are some pictures to show you what it's like. It says Abercrombie and Kent's 23-day global trip aboard a private 757 will take off May 5th. So I'm going to take you over to this article. It's over at Business Insider. I can't imagine that there's a lot of people. The article's written by Brittany Chang. And there it is, Abercrombie and Kent 23-day global trip aboard a 757. And they have these neat article, like it'll have a picture and a bold headline. Since the resumption of travel amid COVID-19, travelers have been craving longer and pricier vacations, especially itineraries that circumnavigate the world. I can't imagine that there's that many people capable of $136,000 per person. But it's a neat idea. You can go over and check it out. Maybe you are one of those that can afford it. When you do, come back and talk to me about it. Let me know how it went. I'm curious. So I clicked this because I thought that it was interesting. But this too is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Elon Musk has a quote-unquote very human side to him, according to a NASA astronaut who completed a SpaceX mission. In that little snippet that my aggregator grabs, it's Elon Musk has a very human side to him, according to NASA astronaut Doug Hurley. Hurley's comments came ahead of a new Netflix documentary covering a historic... I figured it should be an historic, but okay. SpaceX launched in 2020. In an interview with Fox News, Hurley discussed working with Musk and the new documentary. I've always thought that it's one of those things... somebody saying to someone else, that person has a human side to them. You just have to get to know them. I've actually heard that similar phrase. They're a really nice person once you get to know them. Well, it's really hard to get to know somebody who isn't nice on the outside, right? Well, no. Either you have a human side and it's obvious to people, or there's a more complex machination there, and it's going to be really tough for the general population to see the human side of Elon Musk when what gets presented in the public is the opposite of that. If you look at, Twitter postings and slams against politicians. But it's a private-public partnership there between SpaceX and the United States, and I'm sure other countries. But at any rate, nobody will ever have to say Mayor Watt has a very human side to him. It should be pretty apparent. But I'm going to click this link and it'll take us over to Business Insider. And this article is written by Zara Tayeb and does the usual article about Musk and SpaceX and the billionaire space race. Billionaire. Okay, anyway, let's continue on. The next article is Disney and Universal plan to build affordable housing units near their Florida theme parks as house prices soar. It says here, Walt Disney announced plans this week to create 1,300 homes on 80 acres of its land in Florida. Disney joins a growing list of theme parks developing affordable housing. Universal Orlando said in March it would offer up to 20 acres to create 1,000 units of affordable housing. And Disney plans to develop 1,300 across 80 acres close to its theme parks. I'm sure that it won't just end up being corporate housing for those that are going to be working inside the happiest place on earth. Disney and Universal plan to build affordable housing units near their Florida theme parks as house prices soar. This article is over at businessinsider.com, written by Geody Mann. I think I'm pronouncing that correct, so if it's wrong, let me know. And there's more in the article, but it basically says it'll be placed near schools and Disney restaurants, retail complex, Flamingo Crossings, by its Walt Disney World Resort. That's where it'll be. I'm curious what it will look like. Another quote in here is, the lack of affordable housing is affecting many people across our country, including right here in Central Florida. Just make it strong enough to withstand the weather that will invariably come swinging by. But budgets as they are, we'll see. Even affordable housing is unaffordable. The next article is the Continuity Report channel. YouTube launches a $100,000 prize a global competition show to find next big gamer creator, hosted by Ali A. It says YouTube will award $100,000 to the grand prize winner of a new global talent show to find the next breakout gaming creator, hosted by UK. YouTube gamer creator Ali A. The YouTube's U-Tour, which when it's said by someone else, it sounds differently. I don't know how to describe this. Because it's hosted in the UK, the people that are presenting it on the website say it, I guess, in a different way. I don't know how to describe it. To me, U-Tour does not really flow as marketing, but I'm not making a judgment call about that. I'm just saying that to me, it doesn't seem to work. But they're offering up $100,000 grand prize to find the next breakout gaming creator. And there are a lot of voices in that demo, or in the trailer, talking about the project. So I'm sure that they are going to be absolutely flooded with people trying to be this next breakout gaming creator. And they want just a really small, like a 60-second submission. This article is over at variety.com and written by Todd Spangler. And there's more to it. It says the UTour competition is the brainchild of Ali A, who has more than 25 million subscribers across his YouTube channels and specializes in gameplay videos of Fortnite and other titles. Judges for the contest will include Ali A alongside Australian YouTuber Lachlan and the US Lil Simsy. Got it. So it says entries for UTour rhymes with future. I don't see how that happens, but okay. Open Saturday at 1 p.m. I think that's today. Those must be so the entries must be in English and submitted as a YouTube short, which is YouTube's TikTok style vertical video format, which I stumbled across recently. I saw no marketing for this. I don't know if it's just me, but zero marketing for this. I actually did a search for something and ended up in YouTube Shorts, and it's as addictive as TikTok's Shorts. It was interesting because I went to swipe away the video because it was vertical, and I went on to the next one, and I was like, what the heck? And I actually ended up texting a compatriot of mine saying, have you seen this? And they hadn't seen it either. They thought that it was a TikTok vertical site. They thought that it was TikTok that I was talking about when I sent them the link. And then suddenly it's like, and I said, no, look at the URL. And it was YouTube. It was really interesting. So to me, it wasn't, I didn't even know it existed, which I don't know if that's going to get me any awards, but yeah, there you go. Okay. And so the next and final article harkens back to a previous episode where I briefly discussed that Apple TV Plus is getting baseball and sports. So it says here, the first broadcast of Apple TV Plus's Friday Night Baseball wasn't smooth sailing. The fans encountered teething issues with the sports stream on its first outing. The initial streams of Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV Plus took place on Friday. New York Mets taking on the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros versus Los Angeles Angels. However, fans are complaining on Twitter that the inaugural event was subpar. Apparently, the commentary wasn't all that great, and connectivity wasn't all that great, and there were some issues with the broadcast itself. I didn't watch it, but the article's written over at appleinsider.com by Malcolm Owen. And let's see if there's anything well beyond what I'm talking about. As well as social media complaints, as reported by iMore, the status website Down Detector reportedly saw a surge of reports during the Nationals-Mets game. Yeah, I'm sure. So hopefully it'll all get ironed out. Maybe somebody didn't quite catch the issues all together, and or it could have been some one-off technical glitch that caused the issues, and it will never happen again. It says here, however, the graphics package was also the source of online mockery due to their seemingly simplistic nature at times. Okay. There's a quote from Andy Shapiro. It's a tweet, Andy Shapiro. This Angels Astros Friday Night Baseball is like the movie Space Camp, but instead of students getting accidentally shot into orbit, it's three randoms thrown into a broadcast booth as the door is locked. Guess that's about the color commentary on the show. Yeah, they kind of mentioned while the issues could be put down to first night nerves for the broadcast. Now, when you're spending that amount of money and you've got a program underway, you don't put people in the seat where they can have first night nerves. You get qualified people that know how to vamp when they're their support system fails because their in-ear monitor doesn't allow for communication or something like that with a director, or whatever the case, you have people that are pretty rock solid in their ability to just cope with stuff and not freak out. Who knows what'll happen, but if it's rough the first night, it better be really rock solid the next time. At any rate, that's the end of today's show. I'm going to scroll over to the very front of my list of articles and show you the front page. If you go over to ohmTown.com and you first see it, it will have the most current news as aggregated by my aggregator. That said, if you go noodling around somewhere and then you click on the little ohmTown in the top left corner, it will refresh with, again, the latest news. It doesn't automatically populate. Not on this page. I'm working on another page wherein it will automatically feed. But I don't really like it. I would prefer it like this. But the website is one thing that's really about people consuming it there, whereas here on the show, that's more about me having fun doing the news and talking with you. So if you are here in my chat, I really do appreciate you being here. If you're not saying anything, that's fine. Please follow me. I'm trying to get that ticker up to 100%. That would make my year. As a matter of fact, just getting to that would make my year. I hope to get it, before summer rolls around to 100. So tell a friend, tell them that I don't know, that I might trigger people, and hopefully they think that this is going to be a train wreck and come and watch it. But I talk about news all the time, and now I like doing it here on Twitch. So swing on by anytime. I'm going to be doing this more often, having a show live. But ODNS, the ohmTown Daily News Show, it's at 6 o'clock every day. So far, rain or shine, it doesn't matter. I am here for an hour talking about 20 articles. And I hope you dig it. So anyway, I am done for the night. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.